Hi there, in this tutorial I'll show you how to create this clean and professional lower third name graphic in After Effects. First, let's create a new composition. I'm choosing the social media landscape preset at 30 FPS and setting my duration to 8 seconds. I'd recommend following along with the same composition settings. Next, select the type tool and type in your desired name. For this demo, I'm just typing Maria Sands, and the font I'm using is Montserrat Regular, and I've set the size to 61. Next, center the anchor point on your text layer by pressing Ctrl-Alt-Home on Windows or Command-Option-Home on a Mac. Now press P to open the position properties and adjust the X and Y values to place the text where you want it. Then right-click on the text layer, click Rename and rename it to Text. Following on, let's create a rectangular text background. To do this, first deselect your text layer by clicking in an empty space below it in the Layers panel. Then select the rectangle tool. It's important no layers are selected, otherwise you'll end up creating a mask rather than a rectangular shape. Now draw a rectangle around your text. It doesn't have to be perfect, we'll fix it in a second. Then drag the rectangle layer below your text layer and adjust its size to your liking by clicking on the rectangle one here and selecting the selection tool and adjusting its size to your liking. To make adjustments easier, you may want to zoom in to around 200% in your composition window and press H to activate the hand tool and move your composition view around until you can see your rectangle close up. Also, if you select the shape layer, you can move the rectangle all around, or alternatively, you can select your shape layer and press P to bring up the position properties and adjust its position by changing its X and Y values. Once you're happy with the placement, center its anchor point by pressing Ctrl, Alt and Home on Windows or Command, Option and Home on a Mac. Then go to the Fill option at the top and choose a color for your rectangle. Finally, right-click on the rectangle layer, click Rename and rename this layer to Rectangle to keep things organized. Now let's add a circle, which we'll use as a mask for a logo or image. To do this, once again deselect all layers and select the Ellipse tool. And hold Shift while you drag to create a perfect circle. Then press P to reveal the position properties and change the X and Y positions to position your circle on the left side of your rectangle, like shown. You may want to go up to Fill and change the circle color to make it easier to identify now. I'm changing mine to a yellow color. The color though doesn't really matter, as this circle will just act as a mask for our image or logo. Now center the anchor point just like we did with the rectangle and text layer by pressing Ctrl-Alt-Home on Windows or Command-Option-Home on a Mac. Then rename this layer to Media Mask. Now let's add our logo or image to our name graphic. If you haven't imported your file yet, go to File, click Import, then File. Find your file and hit Import. Then go to the project window and drag it into your timeline above all other layers and rename it Media. Next, with the media layer selected, press T to bring up the opacity properties and lower the value so you can see the circle behind it. Then press S for scale and P for position to adjust the size and placement so it fits perfectly inside the circle. Then adjust the anchor point on the media layer to the center of your circle by selecting the Pan Behind tool here and clicking and dragging your anchor point to the center of your circle. Finally, set the opacity back to 100% by pressing T to bring up the opacity properties and changing its values back to 100%. Now let's link the media to the circle using a track matte, which will turn the circle into a mask for your media. To do this, set the track matte to Media Mask on the media layer as shown. If you don't see the track matte options, click Toggle Switches and Modes at the bottom of your timeline. If you don't see Toggle Switches and Modes either, click Expand or Collapse Layer Switches pane in the bottom left. Now click on None under Parents and Links here in your media layer and select the Media Mask. This means that the animation we add to our media mask will also affect this layer. Okay, so now let's add some animation to our media mask layer. Move the playhead to around 1 second, select the media mask layer and press S for scale and click the stopwatch to add a keyframe. Now move the playhead to the start of the timeline and set the scale to 0. To smooth out the animation, highlight both keyframes and press F9 to easy ease them. Now if you play this back, you'll see that your media scales up using the media mask scaling values we added. If this isn't working for you, double check your anchor points on the media and media mask layer are centered in the circle. Great, now let's animate the rectangle and text too. First, duplicate the rectangle layer by selecting the rectangle layer and pressing Ctrl D on Windows or Command D on Mac and rename the duplicate to Rectangle Mask. Then set the track mat for the text and rectangle layer to Rectangle Mask. And parent the text layer to the rectangle layer, not the rectangle mask layer, like shown. Now we can animate the rectangle and text layer together as they are parented. So move the playhead to around 3 seconds and select the rectangle layer and press P for position and click the stopwatch to add a keyframe. Then move the playhead back to the point where the media mask finishes scaling and adjust the rectangle's position so it just hides behind the circle, like shown. Next, highlight all keyframes and press F9 to easy ease them. Then open the graph editor to further smooth out the motion. If yours looks different, right-click and ensure Edit Speed Graph is turned on. Then select the end keyframe and move its handles inwards, like shown, so the animation starts fast and then slows down. Then close the graph editor by pressing the graph editor icon here. Now, you might notice, like mine, that when playing back your name graphic, part of the rectangle is visible behind your media as it scales up. To fix this, simply trim the length of both the rectangle and the rectangle mask layers to the point where your media animation finishes scaling. If your text is visible as well, trim that layer too. To finish, we'll just trim our layers, pre-compose all these layers into one, duplicate the pre-composition and reverse its animation to create a smooth in and out animation. So highlight all your layers and trim them to 4 seconds, or half the length of your composition if you chose a longer composition length. And pre-compose them by ensuring all your layers are highlighted and pressing Ctrl Shift and C on Windows or Command Shift and C on a Mac, and name the pre-comp in. Now duplicate this pre-comp by selecting your pre-comp and pressing Ctrl D on Windows or Command D on a Mac, and rename the duplicate to Out. And right-click on the duplicated layer, go to Time Reverse Layer to reverse this animation. And that's it. If you play it back, you should see that your name graphic smoothly animates in and out. If you had any issues or have any questions, please do comment below and I'll do my best to help. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more tutorials just like this.